Welcome, astrology lovers. This is Astrology Hub TV, and I want to thank you for joining us. My name's Amanda Walsh, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Astrology Hub. And Astrology Hub TV is a weekly show dedicated to helping you explore your connection to the cosmos. And we explore how cultivating this connection can help you live a more empowered, fulfilling, and vibrant life. We're here live every Thursday at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern. And if you'd like to sign up for to receive alerts via Facebook Messenger whenever we're live, you can do so by clicking the link in the chat and clicking the link above this video. And that way you will never miss an episode. All right, so we're going to get started with our special guest today, Elijah, here very soon. But before we do that, I just wanted to let you know about a free gift that we have available for you. We just had a new moon in Aries, and some of you may have downloaded our 2018 calendar back during the holidays around the new year. I just wanted to let you know that this calendar is still available to you and highly relevant for the rest of the year. So according to the calendar, the theme of this new moon is ambition. So the kinds of things that are included in the calendar are affirmations based on the theme. So the affirmation for this lunar cycle is I move forward toward my goal. You might want to write that down. I move forward toward my goal. And then it always comes with journal questions as well. So the journal questions for this lunar cycle are, how do you feel and react when you hear the word ambition? And how has this belief shaped your actions? So lots of good opportunity to contemplate. We have the same kinds of things for the full moon. So the theme, the affirmation, and then the journal prompts. So I highly recommend that you download this right now. It's free, and it also comes with beautiful imagery. So I hope that you enjoy that. All right. Today, we are talking about the secret language of gene keys and how this relates to astrology with Elijah Parker, who is an expert on the gene keys golden path. In this talk with T-Monk, Oracle, and G-Key ambassador, Elijah, you'll learn how to use gene keys to illuminate shadows and release feelings of victimhood. You'll learn why using gene keys can help you find your genius zone. And you'll learn how the hero's journey can be embodied through the gene keys. You're in the right spot, and today's episode is right for you if you're looking to find the gift in every challenge. If you like the I Ching and astrology and you're interested in where they combine, and if you want a map and compass for your journey in life. All right, so I'd love to tell you now a little bit more about our guest. Elijah is a T-Monk Oracle community leader, musician, and the web architect for the Gene Keys Society, creating and curating content for this ever-evolving expression of the transmission embodied in art, music, video, and dance. Elijah is also the co-founder of One Door Land, an alchemical art sanctuary and media team in Portland, Oregon. Elijah uses his skills in video production and editing, fractal animation, music production, and web design to create inspirational messages and educational experiences. One Door Land highlights artists, musicians, and projects through online media and event production to honor and uplift the amazing resources and inspirational leaders in our international community. Elijah, amazing, just combination of your gifts and talents and such a unique expression for them. So it is just such an honor to have you here today. And I know that everyone is very excited to learn more from you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. Okay, good. All right. So before we dive in, I wanted to ask all of you out there, have you heard of the gene keys before? And if you have, are you working with them? So if you can put that in the chat, we'd love to hear from you. All right, Elijah. So let's start at the beginning, assuming that most people out there don't know what the gene keys are. Can you tell us what they are?
Absolutely. It's a funny question because it's such a massive experience for me. I've been working for 7 years with this, and I'm still asking this question, what are the gene keys? But for me, the most important essence that I drink in is that the gene keys is a transmission of living wisdom. It's not just the form. In fact, everything from astrology and human design and the Kabbalah and all these systems, the essence is not the form. And so at this time, the gene keys kind of came into the world to give us a contemporary expression of some of these ancient truths. So in its heart, it's 64 archetypes. And each archetype is, I call it archetype or acupuncture. It's bringing our attention to stagnancy in a shadow victim state. Like today we drew this gene key, number 62, which has the shadow of intellect, being stuck in the mind and only using the mind's language for its own gain. And it's where we have anxiety and stress and greed and confusion in our lives. It's a victim story that anyone can touch into on that universal level. But instead of reacting or repressing against that energy, the Gene Keys is a tool that honors there's a gift in every shadow. So by using the energy of the intellect, the mind, we rise up into that gift of precision, that middle word. And precision, in this case, is using the mind to eloquently speak, to have that precise, passionate intent, to use our genius, but in service to the heart, in service to connection, instead of only stuck in the mind's game. So every gene key moves from its shadow to its gift. And then finally, these top mysterious words are called the siddhis, the enlightened essence. And for me, it's not so much that the human being will ever be truly impeccable, or there's other words like grace and forgiveness. We can't force forgiveness. Forgiveness comes like an act of grace. But we can invoke and call in and make a fertile ground in our everyday life for that to happen more and more frequently and from a relaxed space. So the city is that enlightened reminder. It's that heavenly, call that helps us when we're stuck in our confused and distorted states. And so every key has this spectrum from shadow to gift to siddhi or enlightened essence. And it's not so much a ladder because it's all, dancing and playing all the time. So the Gene Keys, as a book, as a teaching, it has its own profile. It has its own community around the world. And we use it as a collective language to be able to explore inwardly, where am I stuck? Where am I hitting the wall? And it gives enlightened kind of collected wisdom, not only from world religions and philosophies and even mythology, but also from our DNA and from instinctual places of why were these encoded as human beings? Because the shadow usually is a space that we needed for instinctual safety. But some of those codes are no longer beneficial. So we're seeing this evolution in our consciousness and learning to relax past those reactive tendencies to fight or flight response and into what's the creative service hidden in that same energy. So for me, that's what the Gene Keys are, is a way, it's a map, it's a compass to kind of explore those energies in our life.
Wow. Wonderful. That is amazing. Okay. So how did you get into this?
So I was introduced here at Wonderland. I was on a tour called the High Frequency Tour, just sharing some gifts and web design and stuff like that. And I met these beautiful beings that were starting this community called Wonderland. And there was this book on the coffee table with this glorious dragonfly image, and you could just feel it glowing off the table. And I resisted it for about 6 months. I was like, no, I wasn't even into astrology at the time. I was like, I'm a very cynical being. I'm very about practical, grounded wisdom. I'm all for love and light. Let's do that. But let's make sure that that's real. So for me at first, it was like, no, another Bible, another system, I'm a no. But over time, just reading excerpts and hearing some of the audios and seeing it with people that I respected and liked to play with, suddenly it literally kind of came alive inside me. And since that time, it's just taken over my life in a beautiful way. So we as a community here, we actually live and breathe the Gene Keys. We don't even read it anymore because we've just danced with it for like 7 years, and we see it alive in our own life. And that's really what inspires me forward, is less about more knowledge and more about embodied wisdom. What's really going on for us? And let's have a way to play together. So the Gene Keys kind of became that for me.
Can you give an example of how you are using this in the community, like a tangible example of how it's helped someone or some situation move along?
Definitely. I mean, my community is always the easiest example because living together is one of the hardest things anyone could do. And I've lived with my romantic partners as well for many years. So all this tension builds up. And we have to find this place between our constrictions and our own reactive patterns and holding loving space for someone to go through their own alchemical journey. So suddenly it made these fights like simple confusions over, like, someone said, they accused me of something, that I did something wrong that invaded their space. And instead of it being a back and forth battle, the gene keys became the trilogue. It became someone else, an objective wisdom that said, hey, Elijah, you should look at your shadow of greed. Oh, I really need my space and my time. And sometimes I do reach out of my own stability to need something, but that's just a fear. Well, let me breathe into that for myself. And hey, you over there, maybe you should read your gene keys, but instead of using it as ammo, like, because the gene keys can be good shadow ammo against someone, right? And instead of pointing at that person and saying, you have the shadow of judgment, it's actually, can I hold that person in their gift of integrity? I really hear the value of, you needed your space in this situation, and I want to respect what you're asking for in your integrity, and I'm not going to compromise my own value, but I'm going to look inward and find out for me where that triggered me. And together, each person is starting to take self-responsibility, going like, wait, there's something deeper here for me. And naturally, it goes back into our past conditioning. And suddenly it's just like me and my mom. It's not even about this person in front of me anymore. And that's the beauty to this work, is it unravels through relaxation. Not apathetic, like flaccid, oh, just go with the flow, but really sitting with discomfort and finding peace and choosing to embrace, wow, this challenge has some real juice for me to grow and to learn.
Oh, I love that. We actually had a conversation similar to this, not the context or the scenario, but in terms of relaxing through discomfort yesterday, because Donna Woodwell is teaching a class to many in our community called Decode Your Cosmic Blueprint. And so all of these people are learning how to read astrology charts, and it's hard. And what I've realized is that it's actually really triggering, because a lot of us are experiencing a sense of failure or not good enough, and it's triggering old wounds around school and grades and all these kinds of things. So it was a conversation around, okay, how do we relax in this discomfort so that we can actually be open to the wisdom and the juice, like you said, that is just waiting for us. But the constriction just makes it impossible for it to come forth. So I can see how, if you have a tool to help people in conflict or in discomfort get in that place of relaxation, that it does bring the conversation and bring the energy into a whole nother space.
Absolutely.
All right. So how do gene keys and astrology come together, or how are they related?
Absolutely. So the gene keys is astrology based. It's a synthesis between the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching, which is the Taoist elemental dance, like fire and water. It makes a specific alchemical archetype called Gene Key 64 or hexagram 64. And those 64 hexagrams are wrapped logarithmically around the zodiac wheel. So now you have this zodiacal I Ching. And this was originally started with the human design system, and Gene Keys was born in some ways from that. Richard Rudd was a teacher of human design for many years. So there's a lot of beauty in the cosmometry and why these two systems, how they overlay together. But in its essence, the Gene Keys is now you get a profile, for example, on genekeys.com, and you get 11 spheres. And those are actually your planets. They're the sun, the moon, Mars, Venus. But they're being described less from a planetary perspective and more of a journey that people can walk step by step. So it's been really helpful for people who aren't very astrologically astute already, but they can engage with these planetary influences and these very real archetypes. So in short, every gene key or hexagram is 5.625, something like that, degrees on the zodiac wheel. So Aries has several keys, overlapping inside Aries. So it brings a very specific point, like it's actually at degree 15, you have a very specific key and also a line. You'll see on your profile, it says like, my life's work is 54.6. And that's even more defined, just like the seconds or minutes in astrology coordinates. So it's really pointing to a very specific moment, that cosmic snapshot of your natal chart. And in that, a specific key is aligned, and then a specific, it's called a changing line. A line kind of breathes that into motion. So everyone has very specific keys, and they are tuned in to your birth chart, your natal chart from astrology.
Wow. So it's almost like another language used to define the blueprint. It's like different words, different, focusing on maybe different aspects of it.
Exactly. And that's why I like the synthesis isn't a exchange. It's not saying don't look at this part of astrology, only look at this. It's saying there's more to this code, and we can together, these interlocking wheels, give you even more access point to bring your contemplation forward. And sometimes I didn't understand my moon in Libra, but when I began to breathe in the Gene Keys archetype, there was a whole nother layer that unfolded for me. So for astrologers, like my dear partner, Amelie Grace, she's here at Wonderland. She's an astrologer. She's vastly more superior in the astrological astuteness than I am, but she's able to breathe more life into her from her astrology mind with the Gene Keys poetry and living experience. And then for me, who was very beginner's mind with astrology, suddenly I had this passion to explore it because I recognized there was more than the Gene Keys were even saying. So they definitely work together in synergy.
Wow. Okay. What would you say you're the most passionate about in your work with the Gene Keys?
Creative contemplation. So I showed my cards. I made these with Amelie, Grace, and our Wonderland team. We made a board game. We like to make stuff. We make music inspired by our experience. And we do something called Sacred Cipher, where we just improv sing and we explore what's happening in our body. And by using the structure of the Gene Keys, you have a cauldron to play in. And in a lot of systems, what I see and what hurts me sometimes is an over mental perspective with these systems. And it's not like I want to slap someone on the wrist for it, but I want to invite a deeper conversation. So I always call it drinking in the keys, like really letting it into my body. And for me, it comes through my music, it comes through my art, it comes through how I speak. I didn't share a lot externally until I started to unlock these codes within me. So now art is actually the main way that I connect with the Gene Keys. And I see it in my everyday life. And we call it the art of contemplation. It's the middle pillar between concentration, that study, that really focused intent, and meditation, that emptiness, just focusing on the breath and going into the stillness. Between those two, contemplation is dancing. And instead of closing our eyes and only using the breath to come into stillness, we can keep our minds wide open. And all of that genius that wants to flow through seeing the clues and oh, my Venus is conjunct my Mars and it means this, we can use that data to actually deepen the present moment experience. And that for me is what I'm most excited in how I use the Gene Keys.
Wow. We can all feel the passion and the creativity that this inspires in you. It's really beautiful to witness and experience. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Elijah, can you just tell us a little bit about the history? Like, where did this come from? Who created it? What's it based on? Just a little bit more on that.
Absolutely. So the Gene Keys founder and author, Richard Rudd, he's an amazing person. He's a beautiful father. And he studied many world religions, philosophies. He traveled. And he also was a deep teacher and of the human design for many years, another system that combines astrology and the I Ching. And from that, he had his own massive breakthrough experiences, and his own transmission from the Venus transit was a big one for him back, I don't remember, early 2000s. That original Venus transit was huge for him. And he had these experiences that he began to write and explore, and he had other collaborators that came in and out and danced with him. But what he took was these 64 gates, is what they're called in human design, and he wanted to explore them beyond their current there can be, this isn't true for all human design at all, but there can be a dryness and a coldness to the mechanics of that system. And what I see is that this man was a bard, he was a poet, and he breathed some new life into them. And for me, it also really brought in the I Ching and this exploration of Shadow Gift City. That was a huge contribution at that time. And over the years, he began to explore what's called the Golden Path, which when you go to genekeys.com and get your profile, that's called the Golden Path profile. And it was a way, and it's profound. I, as someone who knows my astrology very well, to have a step-by-step walkthrough. You know, astrology I use a lot for transits and like what's happening now so I can be informed in those hero's journey. This takes me on my own hero's journey through my natal chart in a way. And it gives me really deep contemplations and wisdom step by step to decode my profile and engage with my life's challenges, victories, my relationships, my career. And so he created the Golden Path teachings. And now on jinkies.com, you can get these part 1, 2, and 3 of the Golden Path, where you get webinars and audios, and you even embed your profile in it, so you can really step by step enjoy the gene keys. And his work has been going on for over a decade for sure. I think 15 years with the gene keys in particular. And he continues to write amazing material and release webinars. So definitely check out Gene Keys and Gene Keys Society, where he offers all this beautiful content.
Wow. So it's almost like organizing the astrological chart in a way that you can systematically walk through it.
Absolutely.
Is that okay? Wow, that's really interesting. So tell us a little bit more about the hero's journey in relationship with the Gene Keys and astrology.
Definitely. So the way, we started with the Gene Keys before there was this Golden Path, so in the Gene Keys, we have a metaphor. The book, the big book with all 64 keys, that's called the map. It's everything, right? And then you need a way, and just like astrology, there's endless knowledge about what Pluto means. Now we need a way to orient ourselves. So the profile became the compass. Here's how I'm going to walk on my journey of life. And then living the Golden Path, that is the journey, right? That's our hero's journey. We call it a self-illuminating voyage. And the goal was to bring something where every person, even a single dad who works 3 jobs and a family over here that has no spiritual community, they had something that they would be able to touch into their life every day. And luckily there is more and more community now of people really gathering around that energy. So the hero's journey starts in the Gene Keys with what's called the activation sequence. And you have your life's work, your sun, right? Your capacity to shine. And right at the beginning, you're faced with your core challenge. So the journey walks you, here's your challenge. Here's what the archetypes are helping you to turn your suffering into your genius, invitations deeper in. And then you have a breakthrough experience. And then you can go on to read the next chapter about your radiance. And you anchor that into your core stability. So it gives this mythical language to walking through your astrology archetypes. But the whole point is you have to live this. So for me, I would read a chapter and I'd put it away for weeks because it was so alive in my everyday life. My car just caught on fire a week ago on mile marker 48, Gene Key 48 of inadequacy. The card that I had drawn 3 days earlier for that trip. It's so clear to me that these signs, these dream signs, are showing up in the synchronicities of life. So the goal is to drink in a little bit and then let it soak into every part of your being and see the journey come to life. And I can only speak from my own experience and of course my friends that I witnessed, but it has transformed my life and it has given me an opportunity to touch into the myth of who I am, not as a spiritual bypass and disassociation, but actually as a taking in of the full spectrum, the gunk, the challenges, the muck, and the glorious gifts that radiate from embracing those challenges.
Oh, wow. Okay, so why 64? Is there a reason for that number?
Totally. Many reasons. My favorite is how the 64 code, from science and cosmometry, if you look at the vector equilibrium and Nassim Haramein's work in the Resonance Academy, there's a primordial geometry, a holographic reason to the 64 from that pure science perspective. In the Taoist perspective, the I Ching, there's myths of the turtle washed up on the shore and Fuxi was revealed the codes of the I Ching. But even in our DNA, there is a very direct correlation to the yin and yang and the trigram stacking of how hexagrams work and how the I Ching works to how our DNA literally codes, back to old school biology, ATGC kind of stuff. There are these building blocks within us that match these kind of on-off codes, these binary patterns of yin and yang. So when the binary patterns begin to stack, I have an animation somewhere online for those that want to know more, but as they stack, it's literally forming what's called a primary element. And there are 8 primary elements, just like the 8 directions from many different traditions, and understanding and orienting ourselves. Fire, water, mountain, earth, wind, thunder, heaven, and earth. So these primary elements then dance with one another. So every thunder dances with every other element. So 8 by 8, and that forms the 64. And as the Taoists say, because I love bringing it back to simplicity, in order to understand the 10,000 things, which means the infinite complications of life, all one needs to understand are the 8, the primary bagua, the understanding of these elements. Should I apply more heat? Should I be a little more receptive? Should I restrain? Should I act with thunder? And that's how the 64 kind of created themselves, is what is the relationship dynamic between the elements, the archetypes of life.
Wonderful. Okay, Elijah, I'm going to take a couple questions from the audience.
Great.
All right. So Rhonda wants to know where online to get the keys. You said genekeys.com, right? We can get a profile there.
Yep.
Our personal profile. Okay. Is that free, or do we have to?
The profile is free, and there are plenty of webinars for free. The book, which is, I don't have it with me. It's a massive book that describes every gene key. And that's actually very reasonably priced on Amazon. It's like under 20, I believe, still. And so then the free profile and all the free stuff online is a great resource. I'll share one link as well. I built something called the Living Library, which is a free resource that shows every key and their astrology, their I Ching component, their codon ring component. And it's a more fun way to explore them if you're just like dancing through them. And the only thing that the only real thing that you're going to commit money-wise is called the Golden Path Program. And I highly recommend anyone that's even remotely interested in this, part 1, the activation sequence, it's only $64. And if I could give that to everyone on the planet, I think we'd be in a lot better shape overall. So I highly recommend, if people are interested in investing in it, to go that direction, but definitely enjoy the free resources that are out there.
All right, fantastic. Okay. Kalaneka would like to know, is this system like combining vibrational astrology with a traditional astrology?
I don't know much about vibrational astrology from that term. On a feeling level, that's exactly what it feels like to me, is a vibrational astrology for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Diana would like to know, does the gene key mirror the I Ching Book of Changes? She says, I have a few translations of the I Ching. Do they work in tandem and in harmony?
Similar to astrology and the gene keys, they're based on the same thing. So absolutely, the Book of Changes is absolutely describing the same hexagrams. Richard takes some creative liberties from his transmission. He calls it a contemporary I Ching. Because in my life's work, it's called The Marrying Maiden. And in the original translation, it's about a concubine who's trying to find her place in the social hierarchy. And it was really hard for me to read some of this dry 5,000-year-old text that didn't fully relate to my life. So it does breathe something more contemporary into it. But now, having worked with the gene keys for a long time, I'm going back to the I Ching. And the profound nature of what is in that code, it just keeps unfolding more and more clarity around the gene keys. So they absolutely can synergize, and many interpretations are a good thing. They get you thinking, they get you listening. And again, I highly recommend anyone working with archetypal information, be sure that you tune into that ray and not just trust the translation of a translation of a translation. They're all just, fingers pointing to the moon. And when we tune into that archetype, something new may even emerge, but definitely we can listen to that vibration.
Okay. How do the gene keys guide us to greater prosperity?
It's the carrot at the end of the stick so many people need, and I feel is vital to our thriving on this planet. So the gene keys is structured in 3 parts if you walk your golden path. The start is called the activation sequence, and that's about really understanding our core challenge and anchoring in our core stability, facing into the beginnings. Then these red spheres come up, and they're called the Venus sequence, and it's Venus and Mars and the moon, and it's all about these cleansing and purifying our reactions in relationship patterns and opening our hearts. And it's only from really doing that work that prosperity, the final sequence, blossoms and emerges. And it's a lot more from Jupiter and the sun and how we individually, what our deepest pain, our core wound is our medicine, our vocation that we offer to the world. And then we're oriented into proper fractals, communities or collaborative environments for that to really serve and thrive in the world. So the third part of the Gene Keys is a great place to learn about prosperity and generosity of our heart, and learning to decondition what we think prosperity is and what we think we have to do to be prosperous.
Wow. So the second phase has everything to do with relationship. And so let me just see if I can translate what you said. You speak so beautifully. It's so poetic, and it's so fun to ride the wave of your communication. Okay. So are you saying that in relationship, we have certain dynamics and triggers, and that when we learn to, instead of react in conflict or situations, when we learn to relax and be in that heart space, even when we feel like we're being attacked or et cetera, that only when we've mastered that kind of phase, are we then open to higher levels of prosperity, et cetera. Did I kind of get that right?
It's beautifully said. And I feel like that's the real prosperity for me and my aspiration in life. As we see in our world, there are many financially well-off people who are not connected to their heart. And that's what are we talking about with prosperity? And financial abundance is a part of it. We are here to thrive. There's a beauty in that. But from where am I coming from when I seek that money? What am I actually feeding? Because if I keep hungry and I keep going after that external thing to feed my soul, I will never be satisfied. And we see that with people who are very rich and very unhappy. So the goal here is to relax the agenda, just even for a moment, to soften the edge of what I think I'm supposed to be going to, and to listen to how is the universe orienting me on my path. Yes, there's some purification we need to do. I've been acting from a triggered victim state for a long time. But even in there, my soul, my heart knew there was some greater service I'm here to be a part of. And if we can connect our full passionate joy, the flood of love of who we are, then it will flow into the world in a way that, of course, life wants to feed life. It wants to continue to be prosperous for us.
And I love that the path is through people. It's through the people in our lives. We have these constant opportunities to practice. Okay. Elijah, do you do the Gene Keys with clients?
I do. I have a one-on-one practice. I do on Zoom like this. I also do in person with sacred tea. I'm a big use of tea as a medicine to open to these frequencies together. And also it's a great way. A lot of times I just kind of orient people to their chart, and then there's so much material for them to explore it on their own. We really feel as ambassadors, as guides, that it's less about teaching someone or creating that kind of priest in between you and God, and more about, for me, it's my own personal experience and listening with people and helping connect some dots and be a beneficial feedback for someone that's really ready and willing to explore themselves really deeply.
Okay, tell us about one of the most memorable experiences you had with a client.
Wow, my heart just kind of lights up. I just see the tears and the laughter. But my favorite moment that I can really pinpoint was we did a retreat, and we had just done about an hour and a half of tea. So we're just fully open to the trees all around us. And we actually built the profile as a labyrinth, as a physical labyrinth you could walk. And so the kind of like family constellations, you really stand and you look at your chart and you feel the difference and the distance or where there's trigger in your body. And to see people just go through this process and stand at the center of their chart and experience something really in their body, from taking something so mental and then deeply emotionally like working with that in person, and then to just relax into the joy of being alive here. It's my highest wish for everyone, is to really relax into the beauty of why we are here, even amidst the challenges. So I see those tears and I see the laughter, and that for me is the Gene Keys, is the full spectrum of all those emotions.
So why do you think we're here?
I'm in a great place in my life of a big I don't know. And I think that that's the trust that started to emerge, is that there's a cosmometry, there's a geometry, there's a symphony beyond my comprehension. And what I've learned, the only thing that seems to last for me, because I don't know if you've noticed, but things change quickly. It's like life is just constantly moving, and that we are in turbulent waves as a human family right now. And the only thing that I felt that lasts has been this cultivation of discovering peace, compassion, and lucidity amidst those challenges. So for me, that's what I'm here to do right now, and to celebrate life, not as a bypass, not as a only for joy, like not joy seeking, but letting the ecstasy of everything in, because everyone on this planet suffers at some point, and there is someone suffering way more than I am, even in the heart of my pain. And there's someone handling their suffering with grace and praying for others. So when I tune into that vibration, it seems like a worthy investment of my time and energy to bring my love and bring my genius, as we say in the Gene Keys. What is the secret genie? What is the passionate intent of your uniqueness that we need to hear in this grand symphony? And that's worth it for my time.
Wow, that is beautiful. Can someone write that down? What he just said, that was so beautifully said. Okay, what is one tip that you would give to people who are, their interest is piqued and their souls are saying, yes, let's go. Let's find out more about this. What is one tip you would give to them to begin their exploration?
Totally. Take your time. Meander. We're big proponents of meandering. There's a beautiful system. I mean, really, on the most practical, get the activation sequence. It will explain all of your questions. It'll give you structure. It's very good for left brain people. Activation sequence part 1. But even if you do that, drink this stuff in and really let yourself have spaciousness around taking it in on even cellular levels. Like sit in silence for a little while with it. That's why I use the cards that we create or the calendar. It just gives me one key to work with, and really drink it in and be with it and have fun. Be sure to create with this magic. So, but definitely for those really looking to apply this into their life, all you need is the book, your profile, and start with part 1. It's on genekeys.com. And we hope that everyone will explore the Gene Keys and find what their unique voice is to the collective.
And we have many astrology students listening in. So people who either have just started studying astrology and or have been studying astrology for decades. Would you say that gives you like a jump start into understanding the Gene Keys?
Absolutely. It'll definitely, for more advanced students that understand a lot about astrology, it'll give you a lot of the key, like patience is really a very key part of the transmission. And listening to Richard Rudd, he's an Englishman, just listening to this man's voice and his transmission, those pieces alone can transform. And that way you don't have to prescribe to this system. And change your direction. I really recommend this for astrologers. It's not about like jump off that ship and get on mine, right, but rather look up one of your keys and read that chapter or listen to the audio and see where it impacts you. For more beginner students, and also for people that maybe your friends or other people that you know that aren't really into astrology for some reason, this might be a great doorway because it gives them their hopscotch map. They have something simple that they're supposed to do and it walks them through it step by step. So it does have a really good essence for a beginner in that way. And but the material is so juicy that, and I have a lot of astrology friends that are starting to peek their head into this doorway and see like, wow, there's some new information for me that actually synthesizes what I'm doing.
Wow, that's wonderful. I love that. I mean, I think there's probably a lot of things that, when we work them in combination, they just become even more powerful together and feed each other. So, okay. People are wondering what kinds of teas you're talking about.
Sure. So we have a tea school here at Wonderland in Portland, Oregon, and we work with ancient tree teas and hopefully wild or semi-wild environments. So definitely a lot of pu'ers. That's my main medicine. Some old tree, ancient tree pu'ers. but we curate teas that really have a living essence inside them. Commercial teas, in a lot of ways, they're dead or they've been monocultured. These teas have been soaking in the rain and the flowers and the fauna and all the minerals, and they share the story because tea is a poet. She's the poet of nature, and she wants to speak that inside us. So I drink these teas every morning. I drink a nice, good, deep pu'er, and it just opens my vessel, and I can go deep into my meditation. It also gives me some energy, but it's not running the adrenals. It's a different type of caffeine. It is actually more holistic for the body. So we use tea as that kind of vibrational medicine and tuning in that way.
Elijah, do you take guests at Wonderland? If people want to go check out your community, is that open to people?
We always do. We're always welcome for guests. We can do tea and tours. We can do sessions together. We do every once in a while. We'll do small events, but also the tea school is here, and people are coming weekly to come learn and come sit on tea journeys. So if you're just passing through, be sure to send us an email. We'll see if there's any events going on. Onedoorland.com is our other website that's less Gene Keys specific, that has some of those events as well. But mostly we work a lot one-on-one now, and we really like to bring people into what is your art and what is your life breathing, and then you can come soak in the pretty colors and the magical teas of Wonderland.
And if people want to work with you personally, how can they do that?
Yeah, the genekeys.onedoorland.com, there's a services button that has my connection, or Elijah@onedoorland.com. That's my direct email. But the sessions, and also my partner Amelie is on that sessions page for those that really want to know their transits and gene keys. She's the astrology major in that department, and has her own hilarious and deep style. So these are what we do is want to really create at onedoorland.com. You can always contact us as you need to.
Brilliant. Elijah, it has been such a pleasure to meet you and to learn more about what you're doing. And like I said before, your passion and enthusiasm is very contagious. I can't wait to actually go to genekeys.com and check it out. So thank you so much for sharing your unique gifts, your voice, and your contribution with us all here today. It's been such a pleasure. And I just wanted to remind all of you that that gift that I talked about in the beginning is available. So if you'd like to have the themes, the affirmations, and journal prompts for every new and full moon for the rest of the year, you can download that gift. It's free, and the link is in the chat and also above the video here. So Elijah, is there anything else you wanted to leave us with before we close out?
Well, it's such a pleasure to be with you all today, and may this be a blessing for magic and miracles for everyone today. And thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for making astrology and Gene Keys a part of your life. We'll see you next week.